Got multicolor artifacts and lamps to finish this off. We got Arabella Abandoned Doll, red, white for 1/3. When it attacks, it deals X damage to each opponent and you gain X life for X is the number of creatures you control with power 2 or less. So, reminds you of Valley Rotcaller from the last set. I think it's worse because that one had Menace and counted mostly the creature types. I think this is okay. I think you're not gonna get that much of a drain, and it doesn't. Menace means your opponent can just trade for this. I don't think this is a super good card, but I would give it like a C. Can do some good stuff, but seems a lot worse than the Rotcaller, which was a rare though. But anyway, baseball bat, green white for an equipment. So anyway, ends attached to a creature you control. Creature get +1/+1. When it attacks, taps up to 1 target creature, equip 3. So it sort of makes it like your creature into Territorial Hammer Skull. It only gets +1/+1 and it's expensive to equip. But I think this card could do some good stuff. I think it's a C+. I wouldn't want to play too many of these cards, but I think it's okay to play one. And it does push the aggression pretty good. And if you can end up in a spot where you can attack turn after turn, this can almost feel like a removal spell because it takes away a blocker every turn. Beastie Beatdown, red-green for a sorcery. Choose target creature you control and target creature your opponent controls, and the creature you control is damage equal to parts of the creature opponent controls. After Delirium, put 2 counters on the creature you control. So if you can Delirium this, it's absurd, and if not, it's fine. So it's ranging between a C and a B, and I think a B- is a good split because it's also the kind of card that sometimes you don't want to wait to Delirium because you want to kill something now, but then you don't get the bonus. Brood Spinner, black-green 2/3 reach, good start. When it enters Surveil 2, even better. 4 black-green, you sacrifice to create a number of 1/1 black and green instant creature tokens with flying, not reach, equal to the number of card types on cards in grade. So it's probably going to be a 3, 4, 5. But it starts off as a 2/3 reach for 2 that surveils 2. Awesome card. I think it's a B. It does everything you want. It's a good reach blocker that surveils, and then the last bit is just gravy. There's gonna be times where you don't even do that. It's not sorcery speed to sacrifice it though, so you can do it anytime. But a B, good card. Disturbing Murph has a disturbing art. Black-red for an enchantment. When it enters, you may sacrifice another enchantment creature. If you do, you draw 2 cards. And you sacrifice this card, you manifest dread. Now, of course, you can't sacrifice this to the effect because it sets another. But if you sacrifice this to like another effect, it's nice. I think this card could be like a very solid card in a black-red deck. Could perform about like a B-. Let's say you combine this with the Act of Treason. You Act of Treason the creature, you sacrifice that, draw 2 cards, and you have this that eventually will manifest dread. So I think it's about a B- in a good solid black-red deck. But I think you need to build around it because the front effect is not that good. Because it's sorcery speed, so it's not like the Eviscerator's Insight. Drag to the roots, 2 black-red, Delirium, costs 2 less to cast if there are 4 more cards of summon cards in your graveyard, destroy a non-land permanent. This card is fine. I mean, 4 mana to destroy anything that's not a land is okay. It's about a C these days, I think. And the Delirium also means that it can be cheap, but by the time you get Delirium, you could have maybe just cast it for 4 anyway. So I think it's a C+. I don't think it's like an insane card or anything, but it's solid. Fear of Infinity. 1 blue black for 2/2 flying lifelink. It can't block. So if that were just a card, it would be okay. I think I was a little bit underwhelmed with the flying lifelink from like Murders of Call of Man or the 2/1. But Eerie, you may return from your graveyard to your hand. But the fact that it can't block means that it's harder for this to go to the graveyard. I think it's a C. I'm not particularly excited about it. Yes, in theory, this could be like a drain 2 every turn, but your opponent could have reach blockers. There's a lot of reach these days. And since it can't block, it's harder to abuse the way to get this back. Because if this card could block, you could like jump or trade and then bring it back. Now your opponent needs to kill this for you to bring it back. So it's harder to abuse it. Gremlin Tainer, 1 blue. Blue white for 2/2 Eerie, you get a 1/1 Gremlin. Nice card. I mean, If this makes 1/1/1, you're pretty happy. If this makes 2, it's not getting very good. I would give it a B minus, I think. 2/2 for 2 is not great, and it's hard to cast, but if you're getting 2/1/1s, it's really solid. And it's on a 2 drop. Growing Drill. Blue-green for a flash enchantment. When it enters, manifest dread. When you turn the face up, put a +1/+1 counter. I like this card. I mean, it's way better than Manifest Dread a common if you can cast it. The mana is a trick, but you are growing your Manifest Dread. So I think this is a B if you got a lot of Manifest Dread, otherwise like a B minus. But I think it's just a good card straight up, and remember this is an enchantment that stays in play, so you can maybe abuse that somehow. Inquisitive Glimmer, white-blue for a 2/3. Enchantment spells you cost 1 less to cast, unlock cost you pay cost 1 less. And it's on a 2/3 for 2 again. This one is a little worse than the Spider. I think it's a B minus. But you are starting at a good spot. It is exactly what the white-blue deck wants to do. And it makes the room cheaper to cast and cheaper to unlock, which is nice. Intruding Soul Rage, a blue-red for 2/2 vigilance. You can sacrifice a room, it is 2 damage to each opponent. Draw a card. Okay. Problem is that some rooms you don't want to sacrifice, you want to unlock both doors, but if you've got one with kind of a weak backside, you can just do that. I think this is a B minus again. A lot of this card seems to be somewhat similar stat, so they're gonna get somewhat a similar grade. The Jolly Balloon Man, 1 red white for a 1/4 haste. You can pay 1, create a token as a copy of another target creature you control, except it's a 1/1 red balloon with flying and haste, sacrifice it. So you really want to combine it with some enter the battlefield effect, because paying 1 and get a 1/1 flying haster is not worth it. So you need comes into play effects. You can maybe also copy like the card I was talking about earlier, the Arabella. That's kind of nice. You get a drain. So it's like a build around. You can't just put this in it. You want some enter the battlefield effect, and then you could perform about a B level. But I think it's gonna be a little worse, and it's not gonna be that easy to do. We got our first Planeswalker here, Kaito, Bane of Nightmares, 2 blue-black for a 4 loyalty. It has ninjutsu, the first Planeswalker with ninjutsu. So when you ninjutsu a Planeswalker, you don't get to attack or block with it, except that this is a 3/4 if it's on your turn. So okay, you do get to attack with it. So you do get a 3/4 unblockable, deal 3. And then you can activate it post-combat. +1, you get an emblem with ninjas you control with +1/+1, so that means a Kaito next turn is bigger. 0 surveil 2, then draw card for each opponent to lose life to some, which is gonna automatically happen if you ninjutsu it. -2, top target creature, put 2 stun cards on. So let's say you don't ninjutsu it and just cast it. It's still good because then it attacks next turn as a 4/5 with hexproof. And also you can draw cards sometimes or not surveil. But the ninjutsu seems like it could be good too. And then it also defends you pretty good. It seems like a B+. I think that it's gonna be good even if you can't ninjutsu it, but when you do, it's kind of absurd. Marvina Vendrell, Vurberg for a 3/5. When it enters the real top 7 cards of your library, put all enchantment cards from among them into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. You can tap to lock or unlock a room door from target room you control. So if you lock a room, you can then unlock it and get the value again. Anyway, this is very hard to cast. It doesn't like protect you, it only draws you more cards. So I'm very skeptical that this is gonna work. I think it's probably an F. But every once in a while you can get this card to work. You can draw a bunch of cards, unlock rooms. It just doesn't seem worth it. Because if this had like Atraxa was worth it because it not only drew you cards, was a flying lifelink, hexproof, double strike, shroud, reach, defend. Nah, I'm just kidding. But this one doesn't have any good stats. Midnight Mayhem, 2 red white for a sorcery. You get 3 gremlins, and they gain menace, haste, and lifelink. All gremlins, but there's not too many gremlins, I don't think. Card seems okay. I like 4 mana make 3 1/1s, but this is hard to cast. Menace, lifelink, and haste on small crits is not that good. I think it's a C+. I don't think it's an over the top awesome card, but I probably will play it in red white. It's not a reason for me to go into red white though. Nashi, Searcher in the Dark, blue-black for a 2/2 menace. When it is combat turn to play, you mill that many cards, which is probably going to be 2. You may put any number of legendary and/or enchantment cards from among them into your hand. If you put no cards in your hand this way, put a counter on it. So then it's gonna hit for more. The trick is to get to a connect with this, but it has menace. So this is the kind of card that's good on turn 2, but falls off later off. So I think we're looking at about a B- here. Nico, Light of Hope, 2 blue white for a 3/4. When it ends, you get 2 shards, which are 2 sacrifice and scry 1 and draw cards. So basically a mini preordain. Or opt, maybe source speed opt. 2 tap, exile target non-legendary creature you control. Shards you control becomes copies of it until the next end step. Return to the battlefield and try to begin the next end step. So for that to make sense, you probably need 2 shards in play because you lose one of your creatures for the turn, but then they become copies. I guess you can like exile one of your creatures, then trade off the shard, and then you're still left with the card. But it seems good, and if nothing else, it's a 4-mana 3/4 that gives you some value over time. So I think it's a B+. It's a card that gives you card advantage, and that also makes you use the shards in a good way. You can also even save your creatures with this. Let's say your opponent targets one of your other creatures with removal. Let's say they have a deal 3, can't kill Nico. You can save your creature, and that's pretty nice, like a sort of like a Mother of Runes type effect. But if your opponent's got a big removal, so they're probably just gonna kill Nico. So you can't exile itself because it's legendary. But a B+ though. Oblivious Bookworm, green blue for a 2/2. At the beginning of your end step, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card unless a permanent enter the battlefield face down, or you turn a permanent face up. So at worst, you loot, and if you don't, sometimes you're even gonna get to draw a card. This card seems great. This one is probably the best gold card we've seen because looting is very nice in limited and in constructed, but especially in limited where you have some cards are much better than others. And every once in a while you even get to draw a card. And it's on a 2/3/4 too, so I think it's a B. Better than the other 2-drop legends. Peer past the veil, 2 red-green for an instant. Discard your hand and draw X cards. X is the number of card types among cards in your graveyard. So it won't count this, I don't think, because it's still on the stack. But if you can discard your hand and draw 4 cards, it's good. If you draw 3, it's less good. I'm not too excited about this card because it does nothing early in the game. I mean, yes, it gives you Delirium, but you don't want to discard a lot of cards to do that. You want to get Delirium as the game goes on. But later in the game, it's like a 4-mana draw 3 or 4, but you can only do it when you're completely running out of stuff to do. I think it's a D. I could see playing it sometimes, but this doesn't strike me as a very good card. We have a multicolored room here. Restricted office, 2 white. When you unlock this door, destroy all creatures power 3 or greater. Alright, situational Wrath. Very good if you've got small creatures. You also got Lecture Hall, 5 blue. Other permanents you control have hexproof. I wouldn't put too much stock on that because that's not worth 7 mana. And yes, it's a bonus, but I would mostly look at this as a white card. And that type of effect is okay. I remember Battle of Bywater being fine, but not great. I would say this is like a build around B in a white deck with a lot of cheap creatures. But even then, you will sometimes play against another deck with mostly small creatures. So. And the blue side is basically nothing. It's a thing you can do when you're completely running out of things to do, and then it may not even do anything. Rip, rest in peace. Spawn Hunter. 2 green, white for a 4/4 survival. Reveal the top F cards of your library exits its power. Put an of creatures and a vehicle with different powers from the miniature. Wow, this card seems great because this one's gonna draw you like 2 cards probably. Because it's very hard for you not to hit like 2 creatures at least, one would think, with different powers. Vehicles I don't care too much about. So I think this is a B. Again, the trick is maybe hard to get this to work, but in a survival deck you should probably be able to do. Rite of the Moths, this is Umberto Rights. 1 white, black. You return a creature card from graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it, and it has flashback for 6. 3 white, black. I like this card. I mean, Unburial Rights was awesome. This is probably worse because Unburial Rights didn't have finality control, so you can like regrow something good, and if they kill it, regrow it again. But Unburial Rights was a pretty sick card, and this one is 1 mana cheaper up front. Unburial Rights was 5 to cast for the flashback. And we have seen some sick cards to reanimate. So I think this is a build around B. This could be like the centerpiece of a black-white deck. Because one thing you can do with this type of Unburial Rights cards is also, if you mill them, you can still do it. And you want to mill yourself in these types of decks anyway. So I think it's a build around B. We have the blue-red room here. First one is 1 red Roaring Furnace. It is a particular number of cards in your hand to target creature and opponent control. So early in the game you're gonna kill almost anything. Later in the game you may be a little harder, but you can maybe stockpile cards. It's probably gonna do the thing most of the time. Then you got a sauna. I love saunas. Saunas are one of my favorite places to go to. Steaming sauna, 3 blue. You have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card. Wow, I love this card. This one is much better than the white-blue one. So early on you're going to kill a creature, and then you're going to play this enchantment that draws an extra card. And yeah, this is awesome. In blue, I would probably play this in like red-green. I think the 2 mana deal to equal to the cards in your hand is a playable card. It's like a C+. But if I'm red-blue, it's more like a B+, because then you're going to have this inevitable 5 mana draw an extra card. And normally those cards aren't great, but when it's tacked on a removal spell, it's so much better. So I love this card. I would love to first pick it and go into blue-red. And if I first pick this card, I would probably try to be blue-red because it's so awesome to have this draw engines tacked onto a removal spell for free. Sawblade Skin Ripper, 1 black-red for a 3/2 menace. You can pay 2, sacrifice another creature enchantment, put a counter on this. At the beginning of your end step, if you sacrifice 1 or more permanents this turn, it deals that much damage to any target. So that could be 1, 2. Seems fine. In a black-red deck is probably like a B-. It doesn't give you any fodder to sacrifice, but maybe I'm asking too much. It seems good though, and very good with active trees. Shrewd Storyteller, 1 green-red for a 3/3 survival. It gets a counter on any creature. Could be itself. Good, and this one also helps you get further survival, because if we get this train going, it's gonna enable attacks maybe. So I think it's a B-. Shroud Stomper, 3 black, white, black, 5/5 death touch. When it enters or attacks, each opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life, and draw a card. Wow, it attacked on draw a card. Well, I'm sold. If I'm white-black, I think it's a B. It can even get to B+ if you got the good amount of reanimate spell input. If you reanimate this, is pretty sick. And yeah, this almost feels like a little bit of a mini Titan. Because it's like when it attacks and enters, it's almost like a little bit of a Grave Titan vibes, and on uncommon. So I think it's a B+. A very good reason to be white-black. Skull Snap Nuisance, blue-black for a 1/4 flyer. Whenever an enchant area, you surveil one. Sure. A 1/4 flyer for 2 is not a bad card at all, assuming you have good mana. And then a little bit of surveil on top of that is nice. I think it's a B- again. A lot of these 2 mana cards get B-, but some are better than others. Alright, we have a room, another red-blue room. Smoky Lounge, 2 and a red has been over first main phase at red. Spend this mana only because of rooms and unlocked doors. Not too excited about that. I don't want a situational mana thing. Mr. Salone, 3 blue. When you unlock this door, you create an XX blue spirit creature can fly with X number of unlocked doors among rooms you control. So you kind of want to cast a blue one first. This one card seems bad though. It seems too slow. Yeah, I think it's an F, unfortunately. It's too slow. The Swarm Weaver, 2 black, green for a 2/3. When it enters, you get a 2/1/1 black and green injury tokens with flying. Wow. And Delirium, insects and spiders you control have +1/+1 and death touch. This card seems absurd. I mean, it's a 4 mana for 4/5 worth of stats spreads over 3 bodies. It's absurd if you reanimate it or blink it. And once you get Delirium, I guess it doesn't pump itself, but make them into 2/2s. So it seems like a A-, I think. Just because the 2/3 body is a little weak, but this is just a good card. Undead Sprinter, black red for 2/2 trample haste. When you may cast from your graveyard if a non-zombie creature die this turn, it ends with a counter on it. Seems good. You're gonna play it early, attack your opponent, probably gonna have to trade at some point, and then it's gonna come back. It doesn't strike me as an insane card though, because the 2/2 can be sometimes being ignored, and you're not always gonna be able to bring it back. So I think it's a B-, somewhere around that. It's no tenacious underdog, let me tell you that. Victor, Valgav of Seneschal, 1 white black for a 3/3, Eerie. You surveil 2 if it's the first time, if it's the second time each opponent discards a card, if it's the third time put a creature card from your grave onto the battlefield under your control, from a grave. So I don't think it's going to be easy to play a lot of enchantments in the turn, so I'm also going to look at this as a 3/3 that lets you surveil 2 sometimes. And that's decent. It's like a C+. If you ever get to the third time, it's absurd. The second time is also good, but it's not like backbreaking. I think this is mostly a C+. I just think it's going to be very hard for you to cost 2 enchantments in a turn, and 3 almost seems impossible. But yeah, it could be underrating it, but I think it's only a C+. Wildfire Wickerfolk, red green for 3/2 haste, and Delirium gets +1/+1 and has trample. Yeah, it's also an artifact creature, so if this dies, you get 2 types. Seems like a B- again. I just think that this is the type of card that's gonna help you get to Delirium, and it's a decent payoff if you have it already. Winter Misanthropic Guide, 1 and John, black, green, red, green for a 3/4 ward 2. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws 2 cards. Okay, that's symmetrical, but you get to use the card first. Delirium, each opponent's maximum hands is equal to 7 minus the number of those card types. I don't think this card does much. Both players drawing 2 cards is symmetrical. You get to cast them first. And if you have like 4 card types, your opponent's hand size is down to 3. But that's probably not going to happen until your opponent's probably emptying out their hand anyway. So I think this is mostly just a C. You have to take into account the hard mana cost here. And I don't think it's that big of a payoff. I don't even see this card doing much in Constructed either. Maybe it's a fun commander card. Although it doesn't seem very friendly in Commander. I don't think people are going to let that card live too long because of the hand size thing. Simone, all questioning. 1 green blue for a 1/1. At the beginning of your end step, if a land enters the battlefield under control this turn, and you control a prime number of lands, you get a 0/0 and that many counters. And 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13 as prime numbers. So you're probably not going to get a 2 unless you ramp this with like a 2 mana creature and don't have a land. But you're going to get 3 or 5 most of the time. And then, so if this is if you play this on turn 3, you are immediately getting a 3/3. And then on turn 5, you get a 5/5. This card seems very good. I mean, I like a 3 mana 1/1 plus a 3/3. It's like a mini Blade Splicer. And then you're probably going to get a 5/5 too. So this card seems like an A-, seems like an awesome card. The only thing is if your opponent kills it with like a cheap burn spell before your end step, but yeah, that's not gonna happen that often. Okay, so A-, Simone seems absurd. You're getting a 1/1 plus a 3/3, and then on turn 5 you get a 5/5. That just seems like insane for that low investment of mana. Attack in the box, first artifact, 3 mana 2/4. When it attacks, you may have it get +4/+0 until the end of turn if you do sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. Yeah, that seems okay. I mean, a 6/4 is something that your opponent may not want to ignore, but early in the game they can probably just take 6. I guess it's an artifact creature for Delirium. Seems weak, though I think it's a D+. I don't think it's a good card. I just think early in the game your opponent's just gonna take the damage, and if this doesn't get trampled, so your opponent can just jump to 1/1. Beer Trap, 1 mana for an artifact has flash. You can pay 3, tap, sack it, this 3 damage target creature. Not great, but in a Delirium deck maybe you can play it. I mean, it seems serviceable. Seems like a C minus, D plus, somewhere around that. I think it's a better way to get Delirium than attacking the box. Conductive Machete, 4 mana for an equipment, as equip 4, and in Manifest Dread when it comes to play shape, appreciate +2/+1, equip 4. So basically it's a 4 mana 4/3 that you can flip the card up, or you can manifest the card up and then it gets the bonus. It seems playable. It doesn't seem like super awesome, but I can see playing this card. I think it's like a C. 4 mana 4/3 is not good, but it does have some advantages past that. And a 4 mana 4/3 that dies into a clunky equipment is not the absolute worst. So it seems like a C. Dissection tool is 5 mana. When it enters, you manifest Dread and you attach it to that card. It gets +3/+2 and has Death Stars and Lifelink. Equip Sacrifice creature. So now this card is much better because 5 mana 4 for Death Stars Lifelink is already a good card. And Equip Sacrifice creature is huge. But you're only going to do that if you got something expendable. And giving something Lifelink is just huge. So I think this is a B+. I think that this is going to be very annoying to play against. Because when you're getting a 4 for Death Touch and Lifelink into play, the game sort of goes longer. And that means that you can... it's the same thing as with Shadow Spear. With like Shadow Spear, the game naturally goes longer when you have Lifelink going. And that means you're going to have more time to find creatures to sacrifice and equip. So I think it's a B+. Very annoying card to play against. Found Footage, 1 mana artifact. You may look at face-down creatures your opponent controls any time. You can pay 2 sacrifices, veil 2 and draw a card. Again, good in Delirium, I think. I don't care about looking at face-down cards. It's nice, but not worth a card. But you are getting a card back with some surveilling. You have to pay 3 mana in total, which is awkward. But if I'm Delirium, I think I'm about to play it about a C, though. Friendly Teddy. 2 mana for a 2/2. When it dies, each player draws a card. Yeah, another Delirium sort of stuff. I don't think it's great. I think it's a C minus. But it is nice to have a color that's 2 mana 2/2. This is the type of card you can just pick in the draft, and you don't have to worry about not having enough playboards for your deck. Because if you want a 23rd card, you can play this card. Ghost Vacuum, 1 mana for an artifact. Rare, actually. You tap it to exile a card from a graveyard. Okay. You can pay 6, tap it, put each card extra with Ghost Vacuum onto the battlefield in your control. And there are 1/1 spirits. I think this is unplayable, unfortunately. It's just too expensive. You need to get to 6 mana, and then you getting these cards. But they're only 1/1s, and you may get some enter the battlefield. But unfortunately, I think it's an F. It's just too slow. If you're playing as a Black-White Reanimator deck, though, you can maybe side it in. Because normally I wouldn't play like a Tormod's Crypt effect in Limited. But when it's a Tormod Crypt effect that wins me the game when I get to 6, maybe I can justify it. So normally I don't like Tormod's Crypt effects in Limited as sideboard cards, but when it has this extra effect, it could be playable as a sideboard card. So it's like a sideboard C+ or something. Glimmerlight, 2 mana for an equipment. When it enters, you get a 1/1 Glimmer. Should gets +1/+1. Equip 1. Interesting card. I don't think we've done this before, but I kind of like this. 2 mana for a 1/1 that you can equip that, or you can equip other stuff. I think this card is playable. I think it's like a C. I kind of like these equipments that come with creatures. They almost always perform better. They're almost like a living weapon, although not exactly. Haunted Screen, 3 mana for a mana rock. You can tap it to add white or black. You can pay 1 life to add blue, green or red. You can pay 7 to pay 7 counters on. So it's like a mana lift that you can maybe turn into a creature. You can also tap this to make it a creature, but then it's tapped. You just have to think about that. You can't block first and do it. If there is a 5-color deck, this seems like it could be a part of that. It's annoying that you have to pay a life for the teamer cards, but this is mostly an F, but I could see a multicolor deck having some use for that. I don't care too much about the 7 mana thing, but it is nice bonus. So it's like a builder on C in a 5-color deck maybe. Keys to the House, 1 mana artifact. You can pay 1, sack it, search life for basic land, put it in your hand and shuffle. You can pay 3 to sack it, lock or unlock a door of a room you control. So if you lock a door, you can then unlock it again. Slow, not great. I don't care too much about the room. It seems too slow, not worth a card. I think mostly a D+. But again, Delirium maybe. At some point, you're gonna get faced a decision in your draft if you want to take this kind of mediocre and Delirium enable. Sometimes you just have to. Malevolent Candelier, 6 mana for a 4/4 fly. You can pay 2, put target card from a grave on the bottom of its owner's library, activate only as a sorcery. Damn it. You can't even host Reanimator then. I don't know why it's a sorcery, that's kind of annoying, but 6 mana 4/4 flies is not good. This card would have been so much better if it was like a 3 mana 2/3 reach. Now I think it's just mediocre. It's a D+. Every once in a while you may have a deck that goes very late and you just want this to be able to prevent you from decking, but yeah, not great. Marvin, Murderous Mimic, 2 mana for an artifact legendary creature toy. It's a 2/2 and has all activated abilities of creature you control that don't have the same name as this creature. So it gets all your other activated abilities. So like if you got a mana rock, this is a mana rock 2. If you get something that taps to ping, I don't think I've seen anything. You have that. I haven't seen any tappers. I haven't seen that many activated abilities actually. I've basically seen none. So this is mostly just a 2 mana 2/2 that has a little bit of upside. I think it's like a C-. So 2 mana for an artifact equipment, equip skill +2/+0. When it attacks, you may sacrifice a permanent other than this creature saw. If you do, draw a card. Equip 2. Yeah, it's not great as an equipment, but it can enable. You can even sacrifice land, so that's kind of nice. But I don't know if it's worth it. I think it's a D+. Seems clunky, but in a black-red deck maybe it gets even better. But sacrificing land is okay, but you have this is so sort of mana intensive, so it goes around. Alright, let's go to the lands here. We have a cycle, so I'm not going to mention everyone, but these are lands that comes into play tapped unless a player has 13 or less life, and they tap for white or blue. I'm mostly thinking of these as gates, comes into play tapped lands. The thing is, early in the game, no one's going to have 13 or less life. Later in the game, sometimes it's going to be good, because you draw them, and they're going to come into play untapped. But these are mostly like C's. I don't think they are way worse than some of the other we've seen. You can't sacrifice them, you can surveil. These are mostly just tapped gates, so they're sort of like C's. We have another cycle of rare lands. Blaze Maya Verge. You tap it for black, and you can tap it for red. You activate only if you control a swamp or a mount. So these are just strictly better than swamps in limited, at least. There's no wastelands or stuff like that. So if I am black-red, I think I'm gonna treat this as a C+, because it's basically almost like a free fixer. This always comes into play untapped. So if I am black-red, I'm gonna treat this as a black source, but it's gonna even enable me for red, because it's not gonna add red if I don't have red, but it's gonna, for example, give me red if I have another swamp. So it's hard, you can't really get screwed with these unless you like draw this, look through of these. But I think they are mostly C+, much better than the 13 or less lives. And I think the only friendly colors are these check lands anyway. Alright, we have Terramorphic Expanse, which I think is about the same as these lands, except for if you are in a Delirium deck. If you are in a Delirium deck, I think Terramorphic Expanse goes up to a C+, because it does all the things that the tap land does, basically, but it also gives you a land in your yard. Also, maybe if you got the blue Mythic that wants you to have 6 cards, you can also pick it a little higher. But C or C+ with Delirium decks. We have Volgavott's Lair. It has enchantment land, so it's an enchantment land. It has hexproof, enters tap, choose a color, you add a mana, choose a color. Mostly it's a C, but if I am the Eerie deck, I can bump it up to a C+, because having a land that triggers all your Eerie stuff is pretty sick. Maybe this is how you get the 3 mana black-white rare to work. Alright, this was it. Thank you for watching.